Don't wait. Don't wait for your parents or somebody else that you admired, that you really wanted them to feel, whatever it is that you wanted them to say to you. Say it to yourself right now. That's the medicine. That's the power. That's the self-esteem building. And that brings everything that you need online.
Hey guys, welcome to our SoulFam Podcast, where I interview space holders from all over the world. I am your host, my name is Karolina, and I am the Connection Catalyst. I help spiritual entrepreneurs experience deeper connection with themselves, with others, and with the universe. Today on the show, we have Mel Howard-Dobson, the Self-Esteem and Embodiment Coach. Welcome to the show, Mel. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm so glad and grateful to be here. I'm very well, and it's so good to see you, Karolina.
And you too, beautiful sister. I'm so excited to talk to you because you are a self-esteem coach, and self-esteem is such a big, big topic that I feel like every single person in this world struggles with. I have never had a client who didn't have some kind of, unworthiness feeling or some kind of I'm not good enough feeling. So I feel like it's such an important topic to talk about because, everyone struggles with it in different areas of life, maybe, and based on different life situations. But I feel like every single person has some kind of unworthiness issues. So yeah, I'm really excited to talk to you about it and to explore this topic, dive really deep. But first, before we dive into this topic, I'd like you to share a little bit about your story. Like, how did you become self-esteem and embodiment coach? What has led you to this path, and why did you choose self-esteem as your main area of expertise?
Yeah, sure. Great question. And where to start first? I'm just going to take a deep breath. If you want to take in a breath with me, and just land into the space. Breath is so good, isn't it? It's part of what I do now, and it has been a part of what I do for many, many years. Basically, in a nutshell, when I was very, very small, my mum was suffering from postnatal depression. And when I was 2, I sat and watched her have a very traumatic episode and felt myself, this little soul, watching with my dad in the corner and my mum struggling. And my soul said to me, "What am I here to do? How can I help?" And I took that in, I took that on. And interestingly, I was medicated pretty soon after that because the doctor felt if I was calmer, then it would help my mum. But it kind of backfired because I was very close to dying through the medication I was given. And my body went into a state of shock for a week or two. And it was a bit like tremors, like Parkinson's disease, where the whole body starts to shake. And it stayed in my body for a long time. And I remember having a seizure and what the medication did. And as a child, I would often go into this kind of state on my own. And I used to find myself breathing, and I would find myself moving and sounding and doing things that only I could understand would help me, even at the age of 5 or 6 or 10. And I had a very strong imagination, and I would bring friends in and we would play and I would move and let this breath and this energy out. And that was the way I learned that the way I could be in the world, for me and my understanding, was to breathe and to move, and that helped me. And it wasn't until I went to drama college as a teenager that I started to work with Feldenkrais and breathwork and sounding in a much more conscious, choosing way to understand my body better and what I had actually gone through. And nobody really spoke about it. So I didn't have anyone to ask. I was an only child, and my parents, I think, really struggled around what had happened. And anyway, so I left drama college, and I was supposed to join this whole theatrical world, and all my family was kind of behind that. And I actually said, no, I'm not going to do it. And my mum especially, didn't speak to me for many years. And that no was the scariest and biggest thing I could have ever done, because I knew I wasn't doing that work for myself. I wasn't doing that for me. It was for approval. It was for love. And I was 20 at the time, 21. And it gave me the strength in an incredible way to go, okay, so who am I and what do I want? And I got into holistic therapies and started working in that way. which is all about looking at the body as a whole, which I always understood is what everybody did. And sort of found out really that when it came to medication and looking back on that experience as a little one, that actually things were taken one thing at a time. You apparently in the pharmaceutical world, you treat the actual outcome, whatever's showing, whereas my understanding was all about holistically looking at the whole of a person and treating what was actually the root of the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And so I began working more as a doula and working with women in birth, and both partners, whether male or female, bringing people into breath, bringing them into the body, guiding them to understand that fear and what they feel is a limitation in their mind was actually just a thought, and that they could use the breath, and I could help them by guiding them using my own intuitive voice and what was in the moment with them, to help them to move through those limiting ideas, limiting thought patterns that run through the body, which come from very familiar habitual ideas about what's happening, like a painter, like an artist, where they paint over what's actually really happening in the world around them, but they're painting their own view, their own meaning that's maybe happened for them when they were younger too, which is what I experienced too. So I'm bringing that in because it all ties in beautifully in how we often see the world. And the way that is so true for me, my affirmation, if you like, became breath is birth, and breath is life. It's all oneness in that sense, and that's our power behind absolutely everything. To me, it's getting into the body, which is what embodiment is. It's going in the body and learning to feel what's there, what our body tells us, and through it we can ripple through the layers and find, with a very gentleness and a connected lovingness in ourselves, to re-establish what is really true through what we feel, and know what we do feel isn't actually as scary as it feels in the moment sometimes, where we want to maybe run away, or we freeze, or we defend. There are incredible ways that we can feel our inner power and our wholeness, which is what we are, this true beautiful fullness of everything that we are. We can actually really harness that in a way that helps us and serves us, as opposed to quite often reignites that feeling of a smallness or a helplessness or a feeling of fear. There are ways that we can channel into our bodies and create a much more loving, grounded, remembering that we are part of everything. We belong to everything. Life belongs to us as we belong to life. And that real, true presence can come through that. Breath, to me, gifts us presence. Yeah.
Wow, this is amazing. That's so beautifully said. And I completely agree that breath is life. And through breathing, it's like the quickest way to connect to your soul and to the present moment, really, because it's like centering you in your body, centering you in your soul. And when you breathe, it's like you're breathing in your soul in a way, because your soul is like all encompassing you. And I feel like, yeah, it's so on point. Breath is life. That's true. And so I know that you're a SOMA breathwork facilitator, and I have only heard of Soma a few times, just from some YouTube ads, really. But I haven't tried it. Haven't had a chance to try it, and I'm really curious to know, how is this different than other breathworks or breathwork types? Because I've never tried it. I just heard that it's like movement and breath and kind of like exercise with breathing, or just from some people how they describe it. But they are not really practitioners, so they cannot really tell. you know. So yeah, what is the Soma breathwork?
Yeah, sure. I chose Soma because I have, dancing my whole life, and also singing a lot. I love the way that they combine music, moving the body, which they often do in something called a daily dose practice, which is just wonderful. And that's how I found it. I found my teacher, Niraj Naik. I think there was something on the internet that I saw that I loved the idea of the music, and listened into what Niraj was doing it, and thought it was just amazing. So, where to start? So, with Soma, there are journeys that he creates which help us to create our own bliss states by going into the body. And, there's such movements in the world and on the planet where people are, doing their best to cope with life challenges and what's happening around us, especially over the last couple of years, the sort of impact of the COVIDian era, if we were to see it with the same fear and effect as, something going back hundreds of years like the plague, it's had this breaking down effect on many different constructs of society in that sense, all of that. And a lot of people can turn to alcohol or turn to drugs to get some kind of escape or a high, or find a way to just, I believe, to connect back to what is within the body and within their soul that can get buried underneath everything that's going on. With SOMA, it's a beautiful connection to the tradition of Vedic traditions thousands of years ago back in India. And it is still using the very same Vedic traditions of pranayama breath, which is where that began. And most breath works out there are using this prana, this energy, life force within the body that was discovered thousands of years ago by the Vedic traditions. And so breathing is in through the nose or out through the mouth, or you play with closing the mouth, and working with our energy systems through the body. Simply put. And what I love about what Niraj discovered is he actually completely healed his body from a chronic autoimmune illness where there was a lot of inflammation, colitis in his body, in his stomach, in his intestines. I too used to struggle with irritable bowel syndrome as well as anxiety. And that's how I used to help my body with breath anyway, but actually working with the way that SOMA works, it encompasses everything. So yes, in classes, 1 hour classes, I get people to play in a really fun way with opening the body so that they can feel the ribs, feel the lungs, and start to get in touch with the body, when a lot of the time people are very much in their mind. They're doing a lot of tasks through the day with work, everything. And the body's in a lot of the time a fight or flight, in a sense, just getting things down, bam, bam, bam. And we need a way to get back into our rest and digest. So with the fight or flight and how that is, we often find that we're shallow breathing, and there can be quite a lot of breaths, or we might be holding our breaths, not realizing, and they impact the way our nervous system works. And with SOMA, because of the way we create the movements which help the brain, help it to come into balance and relax, it starts to immediately help the nervous system. And from that place, we then work with sounding, which is really good to create certain chemicals that are actually good chemicals, as well as good gases in the body, which are carbon dioxide and nitric oxide. I'll just share for a moment just a section on that. I was taught at school that carbon dioxide wasn't very good for you, but it actually has a fantastically powerful role. There's a natural phenomena in the body called the Bohr effect, where if our carbon dioxide level is high enough, we then get the chance for our body to release oxygen from our cells, our amazing cells in the body, that oxygen is used efficiently, optimally in the body, in the tissues. But when we shallow breathe and we're running around, our days go, 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 we're more in our parasympathetic nervous system. We're more in our sympathetic nervous system, which doesn't allow that process, that phenomena to happen. So our body, in a sense, is becoming more rusty. It's starting to clog up. And over many years, that's how I believe our dis-ease, our ability to heal, our ability to regenerate is lost, and it impacts us. So with SOMA, we get this body engagement, and if we're doing it regularly, our body is being retrained. We're getting a natural high, as well as we're creating our inner pharmacy to work optimally. The natural high, when I was talking about, when I hear about a lot of youngsters, I'm saying youngsters, a lot of people that, love the idea of dopamine, whether it's gaming online, love the idea of dopamine from DMT or from plant medicine or from trying whatever they want to try, they're wanting to find that mental state within the mind that expands, that it has that divine connection to something other than what's around them in this heavier, dense world, as I like to see it. And actually, SOMA takes you into that pretty quickly, so that that expansive mind bliss state can actually happen and come online. And what I love about the empowering feeling that we can create that, I can create that, I can guide people into that through SOMA breath. The possibilities of being the fullness, the optimal energy, the optimal health, their divine connection to who they really are is activated every time. And so all of that mind chatter, the monkey mind, it dies down. We're tuning into a frequency, a station of connectedness and peace, love, if you will, whatever that might be for you, that's more readily available. So it works on many layers. And so I guide people into journeys where, when they're in that receptive state, because the nervous system's calm, there's a connectability from the neocortex instead of the primal part of our brain, which is the reptilian brain. We are then able to see more of what's possible. We're limitless. We have that ability in that state. The receptivity of that is extremely potent. And it's what people look for in other realms and other places that they want to connect into. So yeah, there's these wonderful layers of the nervous system coming into learning to tolerate carbon dioxide. When we think about like a mountaineer in the Himalayas, I've been to Nepal, and I absolutely loved spending time with Sherpas, and their resilience and fitness levels used to astound me. And of course, they're at higher altitudes, and interestingly enough, less oxygen, more carbon dioxide is going on. And I found that fascinating. And so with our breath work, and it is very similar in a sense to Wim Hof and other holotropic breathing techniques what are out there, they're all serving in phenomenally awesome ways. But I love that SOMA has these different stages that are easily accessible, that increase our resilience to carbon dioxide in a very safe, a very guided, clear way that you can go away and practice. And when we have that higher level of carbon dioxide, not only are we creating that resilience in the body and a way for the body to use oxygen more efficiently that I spoke about earlier, but it has this phenomenal impact where our mind is just as resilient at the same time, because we're using our decisions, our choices to create that, and we know why we're doing it. And SOMA builds up that understanding, feeling it in the body and getting to know that. So we see our absolute magnificence and power more readily, more regularly. And for me, when I trained in bodywork, I've been a bodywork therapist for like 20 years now. One of my teachers, Jerry Pives, spoke about, the way we learn and we create change and we create what we want our lives is through practice, through repetition and support. And SOMA, breathwork, all of our facilitators create that every time. And I absolutely love that alongside. So yeah, just sort of those key areas are absolutely very clear and are experienced every time. And to me, that really, really helped me on my journey to heal parts of my body that I was struggling with, as well as to find a way to integrate and understand my own abilities, my capabilities and capacity, and how I could change things. Because I think as a child, I didn't have anyone to guide me, and I didn't know how to find a way to get help, because I didn't believe I was worth kind of listening to, or that whole journey for understanding how important my life is, and that I was actually important. And it still makes me cry because I was so lost as a child, and so it's taken me a long time to heal that. And I've done it on my own a lot, unless I found tribes or people to join to to really let that in. I didn't know how to let goodness in. And it's a hard journey on your own. I found it was a hard journey on my own. I'll speak for myself. My parents weren't very available, and, they were going through their own struggles. And I understand that now. But at the time, I thought there was something wrong with me, that they didn't love me or I wasn't good enough, all of that. And so now, with my newer understanding in the last couple of decades, helping others to connect back into that, through the body, through the heart, and coming out of the mind is absolutely paramount for self-esteem, for creating the lives that we want and how we lead ourselves. And SOMA really is a massive part of that now. And so I lead it with that, that through line of everybody deserves what they desire in life. They are worthy, they are lovable, they can create that receptivity to enjoy every ounce of themselves and see the world and themselves differently moving in it. And the peace comes in that, whether that's for moments every day here and there, that comes, and that is why we're here on this planet. And this is how I believe we heal as women, we heal as men, we meet each other in that level of receptivity and peace. And that's why I believe I'm here too.
That's so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. And your story really touched my heart. And, it's really actually, yeah, emotional, because I feel like I have not really felt alone in my life. But when I started my spiritual journey, after my spiritual awakening, I was alone in this. I only knew one more person that turned out not to be the very best friend of mine, finally. But yeah, I was just like, oh my god, like there's this whole world that I just discovered, and then no one else really around my friends or family understands that, and I just felt so alone in this. So I
Yes.
can really relate to that. It's quite challenging, and therefore, we're doing the SoulFam podcast as the first step to creating the SoulFam app, that is going to be a social networking app for conscious people all over the world. That's our bigger vision.
Fantastic.
With me and my best friend Ricky, we are creating this. And so, yeah,
Mm.
we're grateful that you're part of it right now, part of this vision. But I want to speak to something that you said before, with this breathing as a method to get yourself high in a way, right? Like, it's so good that we have things like
Yes.
breath work. And for me personally, I've tried plant medicine, I've tried few different things. But to me, similar to what breathwork did to you, was fasting for me, because I was just like, oh my God, I can just not eat. And then I'm on this whole other level of my consciousness, right? I can just like stop eating for a few days or weeks. I did 3 weeks twice. And I was just like, oh my God, I feel like I am my higher self
Wow.
walking here on this earth. And I don't need any substance. I don't need anything really. I just need to not eat. And it's just such a beautiful thing, because like with breathing or with fasting, we can get ourselves to these higher levels of consciousness. And it's not necessary to reach out for plant medicine or do anything else. It's like our body is naturally attuned to these frequencies and these energies and these dimensions, because these are other
Mm.
dimensions when we do this kind of work. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that, because I think it's really beautiful how through breath or through something simple as fasting, we can really reach other states of consciousness, right? We don't need any alcohol, any weed, anything, any other substance to get us there. So this is
Yeah.
really freaking beautiful. So thank you so much for sharing all that. And so I have another question on this whole topic of self-esteem, because I think it's really important to talk about this. I would like to
Just
ask you,
before
what
we
do you
do,
feel like are
Karolina,
the main reasons for people feeling not enough? And then also, like, how to get out of this mindset of I'm not enough, or I don't deserve this, or
mm,
I'm unworthy.
yeah. Um, so for me, the most important time in our life experience begins from actually in utero within the womb, with our incredible mothers that are holding us in that space. We are water, 65% minimum. We're made up of water, and we're taking things in all the time, from that time all the way through till like 7 years to 10 max, but 0 to 7 is sort of the scientific research-based time where we are this incredible sponge taking everything in around us. And so when that is happening, this is where we as children, yes, we don't have the ability to work with the conscious mind because we're not developed yet, but we are taking a lot in. And when there isn't enough guidance or ways to feel supported and given communication that helps us see what's happening and how we respond to things. I'm trying to keep it very simple because it's really important to come out clearly with this. When that doesn't happen and we don't have that support, we don't know how to regulate our bodies and to take in our feelings and the information in a way that adults do. And when there isn't reasoning and being able to see things from outside of ourselves with a balanced view, because we're feeling an awful lot when we're children, and we're sort of grappling, wondering how to respond to things and what it all means, and all of that's going on. And when we're very small, we just expect to be fed, to receive everything we need, and we're trying to work out who we are, how we stand in the world as we progress through from 0 to 3. There's lots of no's and all of that, and we're establishing ourselves. And then as we go on through, we take in how our families respond to each other, what's happening. We start to see structure from how we are in school, our culture and communities around us. And we make meaning of how people respond to us. And so in a nutshell, if there are lots of feelings that we express and we don't know how to sort of move through them, cope with them, know how to feel safe yet, what it all means, and if our guiding parents or our caregivers find that uncomfortable and struggle themselves, we start to kind of internalize it and go, oh, they were upset with me when I did that. I better not do that again. That's not good then. And then we might say something like, oh, well, actually, I'm bad if I do that. I don't get love when I do that. I'll do something else. And so we stop trusting our true nature, and we start creating almost like a shell, a construct to fit in, to adapt, to connect to others from that new place that is kind of right in front that we build. It's almost like this new framework. And so the real parts of ourselves then sort of, move and filter down, if you like, and go inside. And we use words like we repress things, we suppress our behavior, we suppress what's really true, whether it's our words, our emotions, our expression. There's all of these times that, we're told to be good. And for instance, when I was little, my mom was very proud of being able to tell people, oh, she never asks for anything. And then I would see my mom look proud, and it almost felt like that was loving. And so then I go, oh, I better not ask for anything. That's the way she likes me. And so I would never ask for anything. So as I got older, that was very hard for me then to say, I really need this right now to anybody. And then I would do everything on my own and things like that. So that's a good, clear example of how that might look like. But it isn't the truth of who I am. And it actually would cause a lot of suffering in myself. And that's where we get into the realms of way we construct beliefs around things, and it links into our self-esteem. So the only way I could sort of esteem myself from that perspective and that belief was not to ask for anything, to be a good girl. That's how I became the good girl, and to just do what others said. And so that's, one way that our own self-power is completely distorted. And then we believe we're not enough if we do anything different.
So, what should people do
Great.
then in order to drop this mindset of I'm not enough?
Yeah. For me, some of the most important things are to start retraining our brain and going into our body to feel things and to trust our body as opposed to the brain chatter in what is known often, especially in meditation, as the monkey mind. Um, it's a known scientific fact that the brain is a meaning making machine. It comes online just like your own hard drive in your computer every day. When you think about that sort of pause, if you like, or the space as you're just waking up from, you may dream, you may not, but as the brain starts to come online, it is literally, that hard drive starting, and all of those things that we've filtered and taken in over the years starts to come back into our awareness. And the best way we can interrupt and tune out of that is to start bringing our awareness to, oh, I notice when I speak to my friend about this, that, and the other, I respond a particular way. And if we're noticing we're suffering and we're not sharing what we really need to say, which impacts our self-esteem, then we've got to find a way to come to peace with ourselves and to build ourselves back up again. So that can look like doing some relaxation, and in a much more relaxed, receptive state, like I spoke about in SOMA breathwork, we can then retrain our brain and bring in new software, and bring online new thoughts and ways we see ourselves first, and speak about that. And if we speak it out loud and we say we love this about what we're saying. So for instance, I look in the mirror every morning, and some days I'm not very good with it, especially if I'm on my moon. And if there's a lot of tension in my mind, the way to come out of that for me is to breathe, get in the body, and start saying things that help me. I exercise every morning after breath work, and I say to myself, I'm strong, I'm resilient, I love my choices, I love my desires, I matter, my values are important, things like that, as I'm doing like boxing and all sorts of stuff. I work on my physical core, the strength of my inner body, because when that feels strong and I'm using that as I'm saying things like this, my brain goes, oh, she likes this. Oh, I'm going to give her more of those thoughts throughout the day. That's the process, what happens actually. And so it's about feeding our own structure and all of the different amazing parts of it that there is, the nervous system, the chemicals, the hormones. Every time we respond to something outside of us or inside of us, there's a chemical reaction. And there are highways, I like to see them as highways in our body. And we can drive on those highways either from the inner little scared hurt child. And if they're driving the car, there's going to be some collisions. And there's no adult at the wheel to take control and go, I've got you, sit in the back, let's go. And we have got to be that driver and choose the highways that bring more loving support to ourselves first, so that we start to build trust, we start to build more honesty, connect with our honesty, connect with our feelings. That truth and trust that builds our self-esteem. And I would say a majority of the work I do in coaching and how I help other people who might struggle around expression, making decisions and choices to create the life they really want, is around this core structure and rebuilding ourselves from the inside out. And a lot of that is around self-talk. One of the most beautiful exercises that I do when I'm looking in the mirror is I say to myself, I really freaking love you. And, sometimes I've struggled and gone, oh, I don't believe a word of it. It's just bollocks. But it gets to a point where I really look in my eyes deeply and say, you freaking matter. I love you. And the more I say it, the stronger it gets. And the more I bring that self-talk to myself in real challenging moments. I stay in my core, in the center of my body. I come back to the heart, I breathe. If I've had a challenging conflict, I know when my little toddlers come online and wants to kind of scream and throw the toys around, all of that. But the point is the self-respect and the loving adult comes in and needs to take over. And that's a training. It's being like a martial arts, amazing, that ninja energy. We have to grow that and cultivate it. And they're muscles that need building. And so bringing that choice and awareness through our self-talk is one way to get into that, and connecting with ourselves much more, looking in the mirror, doing that over time, that actually has a massive impact, and our brain responds to the chemicals that are happening and what we're saying, what we say we love, and saying it out loud is really important. I would say to your listeners, there's a wonderful thing that you can do in a state of relaxation and wanting to bring more of this loving awareness into ourselves, is to ask the question, what is it that I wanted my parents to say to me and they never did? And not to leave it. I know so many older people that their parents have passed away and they never heard particular sentences that they would have loved. And so don't wait. Don't wait for your parents or somebody else that you admired, that you really wanted them to feel, whatever it is that you wanted them to say to you. Say it to yourself right now. That's the medicine. That's the power. That's the self-esteem building. And that brings everything that you need online. And it's a beautiful thing to write it down and say it out loud. Say that sentence. Don't ever leave it.
This is so good. Thank you so much for sharing this question. Like, what would you love your parents to say to you? Because this is how we heal. We heal through experiencing the
Yeah.
opposite. So if we can give ourselves something that we haven't received as a kid that we really needed to get, then we can really experience this opposite polarity, right? And we can really let
Yeah.
go of so many programs, so many patterns, so many beliefs that we were storing for so long in our subconscious mind. So thank you for
Yeah.
sharing this question. It's really powerful. I can
Pleasure.
really feel it. And I want to add to what you were saying about like saying affirmations to yourself, because I feel like some people might have massive resistance to this if they
Yes.
are really struggling with low self-esteem. But so what I want to propose here is to do it gradually. Like, for example, if you want to get to the affirmation, I love you, and say, I love you to yourself, right? But we cannot really even appreciate little things about ourselves. Start from little things. For example, I love
Yeah.
the way that you treat your family, or I really like my eyes, or just something really small that then we can build this muscle of high self
Yes.
esteem or good self talk, right? We can build it gradually, because for some people to say, I love myself is like, fuck no, of course not. Like there are so many parts of them that are so resistant to this statement that they will
Yes.
just cause maybe even more resistance by trying to say it straight away. But if you start from like the things that you really feel are true, but are
Yeah.
appreciating yourself in these all these little things, and you can always find something that you appreciate with yourself, like for example that you maybe have an ability to wake up early, or maybe you are consistent with some things, or maybe
Yeah.
you smile a lot to people. Like there is so many things that we do that we don't even see unless we stop and appreciate it about ourselves. So to all these people who cannot maybe say I love you to yourself in the mirror yet, just start from small things, and the more you say it, or the more you write it down, because you can do it through journaling as well, the more you build
Yeah.
this muscle of like, okay, yeah, I'm awesome. And then it's easier and easier, as you said before. The more you do it, it gets easier, because the resistance is going lower and lower. So then we are like, okay, yeah, that's true. Like, oh my God, I actually really appreciate myself. I really love myself. I really see my value. So yeah, that's just a little thing I wanted to mention.
Absolutely.
And because yeah, for us who have done a lot of work on ourselves, it's easy to just go to the mirror and like, you are freaking amazing. I love you, right? But for me, like, let's
It is
say,
and it
I don't know,
isn't.
6 years ago, I
Some
couldn't really
days
love
not.
myself. Like I couldn't really,
Yeah.
yeah, I couldn't really, like, even if I was doing meditation with this friend of mine, he was showing me like meditation where I needed to love myself. I'm like, how can I do this? So first I needed to imagine hugging my mom, and then express this love to her, and only after that I could direct this love towards myself. And so for some
Yeah.
people, especially people pleasers, and people who are just really subject to other people, it's actually hard to love yourself. So you can love someone else first and really feel this feeling, and then direct it towards you. And same with
Absolutely.
appreciation, same with feeling awesome, or anything like that. It's a feeling, so we can create it inside. But also, as you said, we need to be in our body. So if this feeling of I'm not good enough comes up, we need to sit with it. We need to learn from it. We need to
Yeah,
maybe go back to childhood and see where it came from and really feel it as deeply as we possibly can, because the more we express it, the less of this feeling will be suppressed in our body. And that's what we want, right? We want to take off this filter of like,
absolutely.
I'm not good enough, and then
Mm.
feel like, okay, yes, I actually am. But sometimes it takes work. And if I work with clients on self-esteem, sometimes it takes months until they actually feel like, okay, yes, I'm actually good enough. But it is a journey, and we need to appreciate and be joyous on every step of the way, because the more we work on ourselves, the better our life gets. So to anyone who feels a little discouraged that it's a quite a long journey, don't, because every step of the way you're going to feel more empowered, you're going to feel better about yourself. And it's a great tool, as you said, to do it when you exercise, for example, or when you do something that you really enjoy, because then the emotional charge that you put behind these statements, behind these affirmations, is higher, because then you're like, yeah, okay, I'm strong, and then you're like really feeling it. So thank you for sharing that as well, because I think it's a very nice way to do it when you exercise. I think because it's, yeah, you're
Yeah.
just adding this power, you're just adding this core, the strength from your solar plexus to everything that you're saying to yourself, and that's really, really beautiful. And so, um, apart from these things, that we're already talking about, uh, do you feel like the surroundings and the people around us and their self-esteem level affects our self-esteem as well? Because from my experience, if I'm around people who really believe in themselves, right, then they really project this and they really believe in me, and then I'm like, oh my god, I can actually make it happen. Like, I feel like one of these factors influencing our self-esteem is also where we are and the surroundings and the people around us, right? Because if they are going to be like, you're awesome, then they're like, oh, maybe I am. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a few things that are coming up in my body and my mind as you're speaking about all of that, and I just love what you're saying. And just briefly going back to what you were saying about building this up, you know, just bringing something in every day. It could be one thing. Um, so I just wanted to go into acknowledgement for a moment. um, if there is one small thing that we do each day for ourselves, just acknowledging that, oh, I managed to make that drink I wanted to today. Oh, that's good. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be all, yeah, I love myself and rah, rah, rah. Absolutely not. I want to make sure that's really clear. The amount of times I notice in myself about frustration and feeling misunderstood, and where anger can come up and reactivity can come up. I just want to make sure that people know that, that's part of being human. All of the absolute mass arrays of different emotions that we feel and the feelings that come, um, that it's up to us to acknowledge those and to let them be there, and to know that it's okay. We're okay. Whatever's feelings are coming, whatever emotions come up are coming, that they're okay. And one little thing that sort of supports ourselves, that's what self-esteem is about. It's just bringing something in. Like on a day where I feel really frumpy, and I'm in my late 40s now. When I look at society out there and stuff, when I look at social media, I don't have the 20-year-old face anymore. I have lines and all of that stuff. And I used to talk to myself very negatively and go, I don't like that. I hate the way my body looks in this dress. I'm never going to be this. I'm never going to be that. And I didn't realize the impact of all of that talk. So what we're talking about here is acknowledging and simply saying, oh, I'm aware I feel a bit insecure today. That's the deep honesty. Or I don't feel so good today. Okay. Acknowledging that, and just bringing a gentleness and as best as we can, just let it be there. It's like we're becoming a very dear, wonderful, wise self that can come in at that doorway where we're struggling and just say, I got you. It's all right. And that is kind of it. That's as much as is needed, nothing more. And even if we can't manage that, be that honesty in the doorway of, I can't even manage that. That's okay as well. And that can sound a bit hippie and whatever else, but it's really not. It's really that simple. It's really that profound. The more we can bring love to whatever the struggle is. I can't do it today. I can't fricking do it. I hate myself today. And I'm going to breathe and bring some love to that. I can't do it today. I'm just going to be here with it. And that's all right as well. I just wanted to bring that in because I think if 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 I'd known that when I was younger, that that was so powerful and can help me, and that I don't have to, it doesn't have to look this amazing way that I've got to do this work, you know. And if I haven't, I've failed. It's not that at all. It's just softening into the heart of, okay, well, it's a shit time right now. I feel like shit right now, and that's all right. And I'm just going to be here with that. That's the gateway to the self-esteem that can really, really support us. And I've completely forgotten what you were asking. There's the
I
humanity
was
right
asking
there.
That's okay. I was asking about the impact of your surroundings and people around you
Yes,
on your
yeah.
self-esteem.
Thank you. So, it is an interesting thing, isn't it, to notice that if we are feeling really, really angry or frustrated and upset, but we don't ask for help, or we're not able to, we we may find ourselves in situations where that's really, really difficult to connect outwards, or we might be not able to see that there is support out there and that it's available to us. When we're more open and able to connect in some way, or just allow a little bit of ourselves to look outwards and look up and see around us, then that difference happens, where then we do see those people kind of showing us back, hey, it's great what you're doing, or hey, I'm here for you. If you need something, I'm right here. And it is interesting that whenever we are that little bit more open and we can look out from that space, that is there. It is. And it's an incredible thing. There's something so important around remembering that we're not separate from anything or anyone. We are absolutely connected to everything and everyone. And in that awareness and remembering that whenever we can, the more that comes a little bit more easily over time, then everything around us does respond to us. And I think it's so important to remember that we belong to life and life belongs to us. And when that can happen, just that little bit more every day, of just a moment, a glimmer of that sort of awareness of connection, then we do see how much the universe does respond. It's already there waiting. We just need to look up, drop the stuff that's happening if we can, a little bit, just for that moment, and take it. Take what's there. It's there. There's never scarcity. That's just the brain stuff. There is an abundance of yes. Whatever is needed is already being organized around you. Look up, open your hands, and take it.
Yes, absolutely. I resonate with this so much. And I just wanted to add to this topic of like people around you and how they can really empower you. Because I feel like with self esteem, the big theme is like value.
Yeah.
And I feel like value is also dependent on where you're at, right? Because if you, for example, if you're a healer, like a spiritual healer, and then you're in a, let's say, Catholic family, they're not going to see the value of you doing Reiki or whatever, because they're
Yeah.
going to be like, come on, like, what is this? We are
Yeah.
Catholics here and we don't really resonate. Jesus is the only healer. And like, what the hell are you doing here? And so people wouldn't see your value there. But if
Yes.
you're among only the hippies that know about energy and love freaking pranic healing and whatever, or you go to China and meet people who do qigong and they're like, oh yeah, Reiki and qigong are so similar, yeah, this is amazing, you do energy healing, and they're gonna value what you're doing, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's a funny example, but this is what happens in society as well,
Yeah.
especially in this spiritual field where people come from religious families, and then their family is like, what the hell?
Yeah.
What are you interested in? It has no value in our eyes because they just simply don't understand, or they don't know what it
Yes.
is, or they don't want to know, and that's okay. But
Yeah.
then if you go to a different, like, surroundings, right? When you go to different people and they're like, oh my God, you're actually amazing, because they see what you're bringing. So that's why I feel like it's so crucial to choose the people that you're spending time with, because they are going to affect your
Absolutely.
energy, and they are going
Yeah.
to affect your self-esteem. Because if they can see your value in
Yeah.
what you're doing, what your priorities are, what your values are, and
Yeah.
they are aligned with that, you're going to feel like your self-esteem is way higher with these kind of people. So from
Yeah.
my inspiration to you, whoever has low self-esteem and is listening to us, go and find people who actually see you for who you are and see your value and really are aligned with your values as well, because otherwise you might feel like a black or psychedelic sheep of your family or friends, and you might not see your value just simply because you don't have this reflection in other people as
Absolutely.
well. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's just my little inspiration to all of you who listen.
Absolutely. Love that so much, Carolina. It's so true, isn't it? And there's it's a waste of energy to think that, oh, I want my family to know what's, to see all of my values. There's a point in our lives when, there's a moment of kind of waking up to, oh, they're never going to get it. And that's okay. We don't have to judge them or make anybody wrong. There's just different values. And when we realize that and go to the people that do get it and have those similar ideas, um, desires, visions, whatever it is, then of course we're bouncing off each other in a way that is recognized and seen. Making the most of that is so true, isn't it? It's so important. And we nourish and bloom from that. And yeah, look out for your tribe, and at the same time respect that there are differences, respect your own differences, and be okay with that. Make peace with that. That's one of the most important parts too, isn't it, of building our self-esteem. Trusting who we are, know ourselves, be okay with that, love it, nourish it, nurture it, bloom in that. um, and that's life. It really is. The lightness, the freeness,
Amazing.
the liberation comes from that, as you say, Carolina. It's reflected back, and we really expand in that. We can't be everything to everyone. It's as simple as that. Don't even try.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly on point. That's exactly the point that I tried to make here. So thank you so much. And one quick last question to you.
Sure.
Where could people find you if they really vibe with you and they would like to maybe work with you or come for your breath work? What is the best way to contact you?
Yeah, at the minute I'm right now building a new website, but they can definitely find me on Instagram at Mel Howard-Dobson. I'm on there a lot, and I could always put a new Facebook group link in at some point if that's okay. But yeah, Mel Howard-Dobson is easy to find on Instagram. And yeah, I share my new classes, which are held through Obindi. I do online SOMA classes, one-to-one, and they can definitely find me that way. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so, so much for sharing your beautiful energy and wisdom and everything with us today. I feel like this conversation was super valuable.
Oh, I
So I'm
loved
really,
it.
really grateful, sending you so much love and gratitude to sunny Madeira, right? Because you're still in Madeira
Yes.
right now. That's where we
Yeah,
met.
here, long
But
time.
yeah, I'm sending you so much love and gratitude,
And
beautiful
you.
sister. It was really, really amazing to have you.
Thank you. Peace to everybody.
Thank you so much, beautiful people, for listening to us. And I'm really wishing for you that this podcast will take your self esteem to the next level, and that it really helps you. If you'd like to find me, I am The Connection Catalyst on Instagram. So you can contact me there if you'd like to be interviewed on the podcast, or if you need any support from me as a coach, find me on Instagram. Thank you, and stay tuned to the next episode.